Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
You guys are in for a pleasant surprise today because not only do we have Feedback Friday and our Snake Draft of the Week, where we're going to make Judd pick 3 video games, but we have Judd's the eye roll.
You're killing me. Second time in 2 weeks, Smalls. You're killing me.
But if you missed Judd's camp notes, fear not, because Judd's press conference notes are back to start the show today, live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, which we do every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. We got former lead Vikings beat writer, Star Tribune, Judd Zulgad. We got our executive producer, Dex. I am Phil Mackey, also a former Vikings beat writer back in the day, the Childress era. But before we get into all this stuff and some interesting threads in those press conferences yesterday, let's start our Friday the right way at Quick Trip, folks. Let's do it.
That's a great place to start, Phil, because of this. While the Vikings might have some indecision at the most important position in sports, guess what? You have no indecision when it comes to where to stop to fill up the car and get snacks, get meals. Quick Trip is your number 1, 2, and 3 quarterback. That's right, because of things like right there, the Kruba coffee, the pizzas that we're about to see. What better way to spend a Friday night than watching sports with some delicious pizza from Quick Trip? Everywhere you
and
look.
Playing video games with your friends.
Everywhere you look, all the answers are there. The playbook is there. You know why? Because Quick Trip has the perfect playbook. Because it's a grocery store that's a convenience store. What better? Like, this is the ultimate game plan. It's Quick Trip.
In fact, you're a loser if you don't go to Quick Trip.
I would never say that. I'm just saying.
They should hire me as their marketing person. So yeah, you take it away here. Judd's press conference notes. We had Kwesi for 20, 25 minutes, and then a gap where they probably talked to each other behind the scenes. Hey, what did they ask you? Did they ask you about my contract? Did they ask you about Sam? And then KOC came out controversially in no Vikings logoed gear. And your former colleague, Kevin Seifert, after the internet started, what's going on? There's a schism. The reports are true. Kevin had to go back and grab screenshots of previous press conferences this year and show he doesn't always wear the Vikings hat. And he sometimes wears just plain street clothes.
I think when he comes in, I think Kevin is right, but if I'm correct, I believe the majority of the time that he does non-game day, non-practice related pressers, he, for the most part, never wears gear.
You mean he's not contractually obligated to wear, like for you always wear a Quick Trip hooded sweatshirt in public.
I wear a Quick Trip hooded, and like today I've got the
Padres
PD hat on. Like if I didn't have this cap on, there might be friction between me and tomorrow.
Oh, no, Judd's wearing a plain hat.
Yeah. Oh, what does it mean?
Is he going to go to KFXN radio? I don't know. What's going to happen?
I don't think our guy KO, I think he often decides, like he loves to wear like workout gear and track stuff. I don't think we get a lot of Viking stuff if it's not something immediately after a function like a practice.
I want a head coach that proudly wears my favorite team's gear 24/7. I have a problem with this,
like
Kevin.
Home?
I'm gonna need some Vikings logo on your body, Kevin. You know what? If you really care about the Vikings, why don't you get a tattoo?
Wow.
Get a Vikings tattoo. Oh, Kev.
He does love that. He wears the same hoodie on game day. Like some guys still mix up their look a few times. Like Kevin wears the same purple hoodie with the yellow Vikings for every single game. I don't think he might have had a vest on, or the innovative coat vest, as Judd said. I think in Chicago because it was probably a little windy.
Right.
But he always is wearing the same hoodie usually.
And like the black pants with black shoes, right? It's very, very Tiger Woods.
I want to say in 23 he changed it up a lot. I also think he often wears the gear on game day he's given to wear. Because like in 23 he wore something different all the time. And plus I've been told that whatever he wears starts to sell really well. Team Store does really well. So it's a way to sell stuff.
Just going through comments. Comments are hilarious. Judd, you take us wherever you want here. What your main observations, attending and even asking some great questions, I might add, at that press conference yesterday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's start with QB and then get into contracts, because I think that the main thing that fans care about is the quarterback, which makes perfect sense. So Throughout the course of the Kwesi and KOC press conferences, clearly they were asked a bunch of questions about this. And look, we all know the season just got done. But let me explain this. The media as a whole is probably not going to talk to O'Connell again until the combine, which is a month plus from now.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I know they just lost. I know that decisions have not necessarily been definitively made, but you have to ask your questions while you can. Because I saw some comments about, well, the season just came to an end. Yes, but if you're not going to talk to a guy again for a month plus, it's a good time to ask about the future. So when it comes to the quarterback, there is one quote I want to cite that I think is a useful quote from Kwesi. And of course, Sports Dad loves to read between the lines because that's what you do in all of these situations. I mean, when Declan covers the Twins and Rocco talks, he's not just being like, well, Rocco said this and he is interpreting because he's around Baldelli a bunch. So
their job is not to tell you the full truth unless the truth benefits the public perception. Yeah.
Yep. And in this case, their job is a couple of things. One, that they are attempting to kick the can down the road. And two, a very important thing in the case of Sam is they need to make it sound like A, they want him back, and B, that he's really good still.
Yes.
Because I tried to ask O'Connell, because Kwesi talked about, well, you got to take the body of work in those 16 games, and you can't just get overwhelmed by the 2 games. And my question to O'Connell is, that's fine, but in that predicament, it has to leave an impression. Like, the car ran smoothly, and then you ran a red light and got T-boned. Well, you can't ignore being T-boned. And he did a very good job, of course, of deflecting my question, despite the fact the car was destroyed. So, on the first part, in trying to keep up Sam's value, that's not necessarily because, of course, the Vikings want him back. That's because they want to ideally franchise him. And this gets to be a very dicey thing. Like, you can't just say, well, still franchise him, because you can be left holding the bag then, and it's embarrassing and it's a problem. So the Vikings are doing their best to point out, and they're not wrong. Sam Darnold, for the most part, 16 games. First 16 games, let's say 14 were really good or 13 were really good. 3 weren't so good, but they certainly weren't disasters. And then ultimately the last 2 were. But let's go to what I thought was the most important Kwesi quote. It's a little bit long, but I'll go as quickly as possible here. Mm-hmm. The most important Kwesi quote when it came to the quarterback position and Sam in particular. Asked about Sam and what they saw. He said, I don't want to give you the stock answer, of course, but it really is, what's the team around him going to look like? How does this piece fit into our whole championship equation? We'll do those exercises like we did last year. You're making decisions under uncertainty. Once you find a course of action, it's about how you go about your plan, how you show up every day and get the best version of whoever you decide to go with a quarterback. How does that fit into your long-term picture? Contract structure. And I will end there. So basically what he's saying, which by the way, I am in full agreement with, is if we have to pay Sam the bag, one, we're probably not sure coming off those last 2 games if we want to. That's a relevant point. But more importantly, this team has glaring, not a lot of them, but they have glaring needs at certain positions. They just got done by allowing Kirk Cousins to walk, showing us all, in a great example, what happens when instead of giving one guy a huge chunk of it, you spread it around. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Jones. I could go down the entire list. So that, to me, answers the question.
Yeah.
Which is, if Sam wants to come back on our terms, he can. Now, here's why I think that he's gone. I don't know what you guys thought about the quotes, but my interpretation in saying that, hey, JJ's back on the field, he's working out, they clearly still love him. Now, he's a little bit thin now, but he's a pro athlete with training. He can gain weight back. But my interpretation was in what they said about Sam is, we really like him, but he would almost have to deal with re-signing here, knowing there's a good chance we bench him.
There's a
lot to unpack here. This is very in-depth.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack. It is in the Vikings' best interest to inflate the value of Sam Darnold as much as possible between now and the first or second week in March, which is, I don't know the exact, last year it was like March 5th was the deadline to franchise tag a player. Usually it's like mid-February is when the window opens, and then you have a couple of weeks to decide if you want to franchise a player. And the good news for the Vikings is the NFL Scouting Combine is the last week in February it's like February 27th through March 2nd. And that is a place where all of the off-the-record, under-the-table cocktail conversations take place. But between now and then, you got basically 5 or 6 weeks to inflate the value of Sam Darnold. So if you're Kevin O'Connell and you're taking a lot of fire right now from fans and from prominent podcasters and media members who are, the Dan Orlovskis and John Middlecoffs and all these guys who are saying, boy, KOC, and the Judd Zulgads saying KOC really got out-coached by Sean McVay, right, and didn't put Sam Darnold in. He would be best served to wear that narrative, even if it's not fully true, even if what I believe that Sam Darnold is the one, 80% of pie chart of blame, that cost the Vikings in these last 2 games. KOC would be better served to wear that criticism for the next 6 weeks and say, you know what, yeah, our offensive line and myself absolutely screwed over Sam Darnold. He was magnificent. We let him down. He has fully realized his potential from the 2018 draft. But people saw what they saw too, and some of the metrics coming out that like his inaccurate throw rate on the season was maybe 12 or 15%. It was double that in these last 2 games against the Rams and Lions. But your whole goal right now should be to somehow salvage his value and public perception to the point where you can get 2 teams on the hook, Steelers and Raiders or whoever it is, and say, hey, he can either hit the open market and you're involved in a bidding war with 4 teams, or we can franchise him and talk directly to you about compensation, and you don't have to worry about competing on an open market. Then we will facilitate Darnold to Steelers. But man, like, what can you even get? I mean, 3 weeks ago, I would have said, I think you can get a second-round pick for him. Franchise him, second-round pick. That's what the Patriots got for Matt Castle back when they did the same thing in 2008, 2009.
Right.
But they were walking that line very delicately yesterday, both Kwesi and KOC.
And is somebody going to, so if you franchise tag him, is somebody going to have the starting point then of a multi-year contract negotiation at $40 million? Like, that's the question too.
To me, the Steelers and the Raiders are the most likely because we kind of went through some of these yesterday. Like, you need teams with a quarterback need, cap space, and teams that aren't within range of Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, who might go in the top 3, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the Raiders are at 6. Could they maneuver their way? Maybe. The Steelers are picking like 21st, but the Steelers have no starting quarterback under contract. They're already a good, solid team with a good defense. They got George Pickens. Steelers fans want Mike Tomlin fired, but like they've got a credible top-end future Hall of Fame coach. Mm-hmm. How are they fixing their quarterback situation in the next 2 or 3 years? Like, Mike Tomlin and that defense are too good to be 4-13. They've never finished below 500.
Right.
So don't you go to the Steelers and say, guys, it's a weak quarterback draft. You literally have no starting quarterback under contract.
Problem.
Would you like a former number 3 overall pick that just graduated quarterback rehabilitation university? Well, yeah, he's still got some room to improve
until he relapsed. Yeah. He went to Detroit and we lost track of him.
No, but that reason, but we were the ones that supplied the alcohol. We should not.
We gave him the drugs. We didn't mean to.
I mean, to me, the Steelers are the team that you target in the next 5 or 6 weeks. They are the most obvious, and some of the odds came out yesterday, and they're number 1 on a couple of the odds reports too.
So I think that the only chance that Sam returns is if Sam signs a contract on the Vikings terms, which I don't think is going to happen. And then the last piece, the last nugget, and I actually took more away from Kwesi. Kwesi is word salad, but because he doesn't do, I think, as much press, he gives you a little bit more. Like, O'Connell's brilliant at talking around things. And again, it comes off as great, but then you go back and like read it and you're like, that doesn't really tell me a lot. So Kwesi, asked about the confidence in Daniel Jones coming back, said, quote, "I think he's a potential option for us going forward." And he said that he had met, of course, at the exit meetings with Jones. He didn't want to get into specifics there. But like, if I was to assess the situation right now, if I was the surveyor of the Viking quarterback jungle and they were to say, what's going to go on, Sports Dad? I think it's really clear. I think McCarthy starts if he's prepared. And there is a chance he's not, but let's just say if he's prepared, I think he starts. If he's not, I think Daniel Jones starts. And I think Darnold goes elsewhere. And best case, yeah, the Vikings franchise tag him. They get a second-round pick back.
Yeah.
Like, I think that might be pie in the sky now. But to me, there wasn't a lot of interpretation there that left like this wide open door on Sam. And of course, they're not going to say, "Did you guys see those last 2 games? He choked. Of course we don't want him back." So
Yeah.
that's my summing up of what I think we're looking at here in January.
I would be shocked if Sam Darnold is back in a Vikings uniform next year. Like, utterly shocked. Because the only scenario in which that makes sense is the same scenario that they signed him in last March, which is, hey, do you want to come in here? We got a young quarterback probably about to be drafted. In this case, you know that he has been drafted, and if he can play in 2025, he's going to. But he signed for $10 million on a 1-year deal, and it didn't alter your cap situation going forward. He has graduated. I know his value tanked, all this stuff. His value didn't tank down to 1 year, $10 million again.
Yep.
The last 2 games definitely cost him a lot of money and probably like a full year of guaranteed money, maybe $40 or $50 million or maybe more. But he has graduated the 1 year, $10 million contract. And if it's like if Sam Darnold for some reason said, you know what? I love it here so much, and I don't care about money. I just, you know what? Even if I'm the backup, I'd love to just be here for 1 year, $10 or $15 million. Okay.
Right.
But his agent would fire him, and there's no way that he would turn down this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for even if it's like a 2-year, $60 million deal somewhere. Yep. He has graduated from the point where it's feasible to bring him back. So, end of story for me.
And if he came back, it would, as I said before, it would have to be with the agreement that if he's benched, it's not a problem. Because when McCarthy, like they didn't tell us, hey, JJ's out there right now, like literally right now on the field working out. He looks, they didn't tell us that because they just thought, you know what, we're going to brighten the media's day. We're going to tell them about JJ McCarthy. Like, this is all done with a purpose. I will give you the one quote in which O'Connell, and again, he does it with a smile and his voice inflection does not change, but I will give you the one quote at which he swung back a little bit, okay? So there is a Darnold interpretation here of, I'm not going to put this, you're not going to put this all on me, you bozos, Zolgad. Mm-hmm. He was asked about the fact that they didn't have a quick plan. Like why didn't you have a quicker plan at times?
Yeah, well,
his quote was, there was a lot of their game plan was designed to take away those early in the down quick throws. And that's where it required a layer of getting into the progressions and having real decisiveness with the things we did.
We
did, which I love. It's like Kevin just saying.
He.
Just say Sam.
What he's so. I was talking to our guys Jeremiah and Alex, 16-year NFL veteran offensive lineman, and of the 9 sacks, they put 5 of them on the quarterback. Wow. Not that like all of them. There's some middle ground where maybe a guy gets beat, but still like there's going to be muddy pockets and whatnot. But there were 5 where it was either, dude, you're hanging on to the ball too long, or he's flat out missing his answer, where it's like, okay, boom, boom. My interpretation of what Kevin O'Connell is saying in sort of talking this through with former NFL guys who know way more than I do and we do, right, was pre-snap, there's more work to be done mentally than Sam was putting in on some of these plays, where it's like, okay, pre-snap, yeah, there's your progressions once you get the ball, but you should know that based on the look pre-snap and what they're doing over the top with their secondary, that you really got to get to your 3rd or 4th read instantly. And maybe your 3rd or 4th read should actually be like your 1st read if you're diagnosing it pre-snap as fast as you should. That's maybe someone can correct me who disagrees, but like that was my interpretation of what Kevin O'Connell said yesterday at the podium. It's like, hey, see the picture and get to the answer much quicker than you were.
I have never seen a Vikings game with more film breakdowns that are contradictory than this one. Like Orlovsky is putting, I think, he put one sack on Darnold, and it's like, I know that's not true.
That is, I love Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, he's really
That
good.
is patently absurd when you dissect and look at those 9 sacks.
But you respect him.
Angle.
But like that's the weird thing. It's not like some Yahoo in his basement who like tries to break down film. This guy played and he put one on him. It was I'll go back to, and you called this, it feels like people are working agendas from the outside world.
But what's funny is that serves the Vikings well.
Yes.
Because I know that ego-wise, if you're Kevin O'Connell, watching Dan Orlovsky say that 8 of these sacks were either on the scheme or the offensive line. I mean, if it's on the offensive line, I mean, KOC threw them under the bus too. But Kwesi agreed at that press conference yesterday, kind of begrudgingly. But ego-wise, you want to push back and say, no, you're literally questioning my ability as a head coach. Look at the answers I provided to the test. He wasn't taking the answers. But you need to eat that and swallow it and take a step back. You'd rather have the perception be that Darnold got set up to fail by a bad structure.
Right.
Steelers, trust us. He's awesome. You just got to do better than we did at coaching and whatever. Yeah. It's super interesting.
And the full plan is to ideally move on, put McCarthy in place, and bring back Jones. So Orlovsky running. I was at that game.
So was I. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great moment. If it had been the CFL, he would have been fine.
Hilarious. We got a bunch of feedback questions. Do you have any other pressing things from
let's get to the contract quick.
Okay.
Let's get to the contract. I think the contract is actually a little bit more interesting in the sense that it's harder to diagnose. So there's Kwesi's contract and Kevin's. And I think Kevin's is the headline every single time. I think Kwesi's gets done unless there's stuff we don't know about behind the scenes. And it's a GM's contract. I'm sorry, that's not as sexy as a coach's. So Kevin O'Connell was asked by Seifert, do you want to sign a contract extension? Which was a really interesting way to word the question. Not, have they come to you? Do you want to do this? Because it's quite clear that he is not exactly pleased with how I think this has unfolded. Well, I think it's 2 things. One, what we talked about a couple days ago, which is I don't think the way that Mark Wilf handled it in training camp was great. He basically tried to make it sound like this guy's going to have to earn it. And Kevin's personality is not one that would take that great. I think a lot of coaches wouldn't care. He did care about that. That can be gotten past. The other interesting thing is Kevin O'Connell, and it's been reported, in fact, I think Seifert had it in his ESPN.com story today, that he wants more control. And this is always an issue. This is always going to be an issue. My question is, does he want more control from what Kwesi's doing? From what Ryan Grigson's, who's more the football guy?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think this gets done. But until it's done, it's definitely worth monitoring. Glazer started a small fire and dropped a match and walked away. And it's smoldered a lot. It's not raging, but it has smoldered a lot. But for all of those who laughed and said, "Oh, Glazer's making stuff up to get clickbait,"
no,
that was not clickbait. That was the first sign that something was a little bit amiss. And Seifert did ask O'Connell about the Florio report. And again, we can laugh at Mike, but the friction report, which was a report, not an opinion, and O'Connell just said, all I'm going to say is this. So there's definitely something smoldering here. I don't think it's going to turn into a fire, but if you dismiss it, you're making a mistake.
Yeah, the control thing is so nebulous and vague. Because isn't it kind of black and white? Kwesi runs the front office. So unless the structure of the organization changes, he gets I know that he loves to collaborate, and that's great. And he involves a million voices from scouts to coaches, and he's probably one of the more, like, just in terms of like his process, democratic, in that, like, let's hear from this wing of scouts and this wing of coaches and whatever. But the only way that power structure would change, where Kevin O'Connell would get actual more power, is for him to be it'd be like final roster say over the general manager, right?
Control of the 53.
Control of the 53.
That's a possibility. I don't know that.
So could it be that Kwesi remains in control of personnel, in, out, acquisitions, draft, everything final say, but KOC gets the final say on the 53 contractually?
It could be. That could be it. But there's also the question, because of how Kwesi operates, and it's a very different, way than like Spielman did. The other thing, and this is just me, in fact, if you could be so kind as to provide me the cover of Reckless Speculation, I would really appreciate that, because I need it.
Reckless speculation.
And this is coming from me strictly. But I've thought of this. Is this a Kwesi thing, or is this run more into also who else Kwesi trusts for football? Ryan Grigson. Like, if Ryan Grigson, my question will always be this. I think it was Kwesi's decision to trade back in the 22 draft. I don't know that the players they took were his players. And I think where the friction, where it at least bubbled up and we saw it a bit was the fact that when the change was made at right guard, it was later than O'Connell wanted it to be. And Ingram was a guy who my interpretation of this entire thing was he was a high draft pick from a terrible draft. And they knew if we bench him, we're basically just putting nails in the coffin of that draft. And for someone in that building, or more than someone, that's embarrassing. So there was definitely pushback on when Kevin made that change. And Kevin wanted to make it beforehand. I think Kevin doesn't want to deal with that.
And I alluded to this earlier in the week on one of our shows, but if I were Kevin, seeing where this franchise is, that I've been coaching 34-17 in the regular season, but coming up short in the biggest games because your roster just isn't what the Lions roster is. If we're being honest, I know the Rams had a worse record. Your roster is not quite what the Rams roster is in a lot of different places. I would be really annoyed that in 3 drafts since I took over as head coach, there's really only a couple high-impact players on the field right now. Jordan Addison.
I'm trying to.
From a UDFA class,
Ivan Pace was a UDFA. We'll count that.
Yeah. But draft picks. You're right.
So if you free agency, whatever that process was, keep rolling it forward. But this is pure speculation here. But the thing that I would be hung up on if I'm Kevin is, where would we be right now if we had more than one impact player on the field from our last 2? Let's say 2 with Ivan Pace from the last 3 drafts. And there's more. I think there's more on the way. I think Dallas Turner's gonna take the spot of outgoing what's his name, backup defensive end Patrick Jones is a free agent, and then JJ McCarthy. Yeah. But I would be looking at that and saying, what is our draft process here? Why do we not have more success in these 3 years? I would love to have my hands on that more. Just speculating.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And look, I think we all agree that Dallas Turner will be fine. But when you look at the snaps for his first year, and then, you look at Jared Verse and things like that, if I'm a guy, if I want to win now, that's still frustrating. Somebody felt he couldn't play as much as you expected. That doesn't mean he's a bust. But yeah, I think there is a definite difference of opinion about things. And I'll go back to what I said before. This always happens. Because whenever you put a GM and coach together, at first it's all smiley, happy. We collaborate. Zim and Spielman didn't collaborate. And eventually a coach always says, I need to serve what I need to serve so I can win right now. And Phil, you're exactly, imagine if Lewis Seen panned out. Imagine if Andrew Booth, think about
Ed Ingram. We're literally sitting
Ty
here.
Chandler.
We're doing episodes talking about dropping $20 million a year on Trey Smith to fix your guard problem. Yeah. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you had still a rookie scale contract starting guard in Ed Ingram, and then the extension is much less than $20 million a year, probably, if he were even just above average?
And you could have saved on at least one of those veteran free agent corners if Booth pans out.
Yep.
Second round pick.
Yeah. So great stuff. Judd's press conference notes. Before you know
enjoyed
it, Judd's camp notes will be taken over the summer
Comments
again.
are on fire right now. The comments are on fire. Some positive, some not so much towards Sports Dad, and I appreciate that.
Some mean-spirited comments in there. Why don't you show some positivity for those looking to lose some weight here in the new year, Judd?
I love that idea because it allows me to talk about my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers who do weight loss differently. There's Sports Dad right there. That's a few years back. So about, 4 or 5 months ago, I had gained a few pounds back. And so guess what? I went back to my friends and I said, help me out. And I dropped 15 pounds just like that because this program works. It's what they call a you-centric approach, which means that they fit a program to what is going to help you drop weight. Join today, get 25% off. Also, their GLP-1 weight loss meds, all doses, plus 25% off Livia's award-winning nutrition programs. That's what I've used, and I can tell you right now, it works. Also, if you're outside the state, do not despair because this program can be done virtually. They actually don't have to send you a ton of food, which is great. So check them out, livea.com to schedule your free consultation today or give them a call, 855-GO-LIVIA. Livia, livea.com is your ticket to weight loss.
Minnesota Rusco is here powering Feedback Friday today. Minnesota's hometown remodeler since 1955.
Thank you.
Right. Cody and Casey can help make your remodel a reality, whether it's windows, doors, siding, bathrooms, kitchens, decks, roofing. Now is a great time to get in touch with Minnesota Rusco. They got their big 70th birthday sale happening, which means they're giving you 70% off all labor, no interest, no monthly payments until 2027, and a $70 gift card with every appointment. If you're looking to make your remodel a reality, turn to the experts at Minnesota Rusco, minnesotarusco.com. And also a shout out, speaking of longtime Minnesota companies, Federated Insurance has been around, based in Owatonna, Minnesota since 1904, helping businesses maximize their success through risk management. It's like having a great offensive line for your business so you can stay focused on growing said business while they focus on safety, preventing claims, and risk management. To find a list of industries they specialize in and to find out more about their rich history, go to federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, let's dive into some Feedback Friday here. Benji Steiner says KOC has had to deal with flawed quarterbacks since the day he got here. He spends most of his effort figuring out ways to paint over their flaws. But imagine KOC with a quarterback who he doesn't have to prop up every week. If JJ McCarthy is as good as some believe, he and KOC could be a perfect marriage. There is, early on, he'll be a first-year starter, so there's going to be a lot of babysitting and molding there. But, yeah, when you're hyper-focused on, some of the clips we see when he's mic'd up, we literally see him in Sam Darnold's ear, hey, say this to the guys. Hey, if you see this, he's like talking him through the next 30 or 60 seconds of real time.
Yep.
Well, what if you had a quarterback or a partner in crime? Matthew Stafford, for instance, in Los Angeles, who had been around the block enough, or a talented young quarterback. Dude, you see Jaden Daniels as a rookie literally doing like offensive line slide protections, things that rookies would oftentimes delegate to a center. He's up there saying, hey, I see this. Let's get out of this 5-0, slide right, whatever. What kind of coach would KOC be if he had a little more mental bandwidth freed up during the week and during games?
Which is why I think that the transition to the guy that KOC handpicked is absolutely the correct call. Even if it fails, it's the correct call because his problem is like this is not so much a physical problem as a mental one. With Cousins and with Sam, he had to get them to think like he wants them to think. McCarthy, one, is younger. I think he turns 22 this week or this month. And two, Kevin saw something in him personality-wise and mentality-wise that is going to, yes, allow him to basically have him thinking like Kevin does. And so I guarantee you when McCarthy gets the starting job and becomes clearly comfortable, the amount of delay of game penalties and near penalties is going to decrease. So yes, that's a perfect point, and I think that's why it's really fair to transition.
Yeah. Also worth noting too, when you look at this divisional round weekend is always a blast. It's Dex's favorite weekend on the sports calendar, and for all the machinations about KOC dropping the ball the last 2 weeks, and certainly there's things to criticize. Look at the remaining court. Sometimes football is much more simple than conceptually than we give credit to. Look at the remaining quarterbacks in the playoffs. I mean, Joe Burrow didn't make it, but it's like, okay, there's 8 teams left. We got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, who's become excellent, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels is one of the best rookie quarterbacks we've ever seen. All of those guys unequivocally better than Sam Darnold, even though Darnold had a great pop-up year. And then Jalen Hurts and CJ Stroud, a lot of people would say, yeah, those guys are also better than Sam Darnold. So sometimes it's that simple. Who are the best quarterbacks in the league? Oh, that's probably who's in the divisional round and championship weekend, right? Brian Booth says, reckless speculation. Okay.
You got covered, Brian. You got covered.
How about the Vikings trade Kevin O'Connell for some first-round picks and hire Brian Flores as the head coach and then promote Josh McCown, who's getting a Jets head coaching interview, by the way, this weekend, to offensive coordinator and play caller? What if it was 3 first-round picks? Someone says, hey, 3 first-round picks. Raiders are like, Tom Brady says, I love this guy. We'll give you 3 first-round picks. The 6th overall pick and 2 more first-round picks.
No.
Here's why I'll say no. And I've seen a lot of comparisons to 2006 now when Tomlin walked out the door after a year of both him and Chile and went to Pittsburgh. I think Brian Flores is really good at what he does. And I think he is conciliatory about how he acted. As much was his fault, because the entire thing was not his fault with the Dolphins. But I think he has truly improved as a person, as a leader, blah, blah, blah. Nonetheless, I think you'd be honestly, I think you'd be going down somewhat of a Zimmer path. And when things go wrong, I don't know that Brian Flores, like, it's one thing in the calm of the moment as a coordinator to talk about your flaws, right? But we've all had situations where things start to spiral and go wrong, and we probably go back to being the worst version of ourselves.
Where everyone in the building hates you and then goes on podcasts in a couple of
and
years
just
and
rips
airs
you.
it out.
Kevin O'Connell has proven, if nothing else, that he understands and is really good at the role of CEO of a football team. I don't have that same faith in Brian. Now, I might be wrong, but as a guy that covered, and Phil, I believe that you can vouch for this too, as a guy that covered Tomlin in 2006, you watched him operate, and you were like, whoa, this guy's a head coach.
Super impressive. He had command.
I don't sit there and watch a Flores press conference and say, I am looking at a guy who is a surefire head coach.
Yeah, I do think he deserves a second chance. I hope he gets one, and I hope it's the right opportunity. I think he might be more in the Steve Spagnuolo category, which is fine. You can make a ton of money and have a ton of success as a 20-year defensive coordinator and win championships. That's my gut, but he's also still young enough. He's like what is he, like 43 or something? So he's learning from the Tomlins and the KOCs. But this idea that, and I put a tweet out this morning and said, hey, if you're gonna come in with KOC should be fired talk, new rule, you have to give me a name. Who's the name? Okay, Flores. Well, Flores had 3 years in Miami. He was 500. KOC, 3 years in Minnesota. By the way, half the games, you say, well, the rosters. Half the games in Minnesota, he's had Sam Darnold, Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, or Nick Mullins as a starter, and he's 34-17. So I don't know that there's any evidence that shows you that Brian Flores is an upgrade over KOC as a head coach.
No.
Ben Johnson, well, he's never been a head coach before. How do we know?
Yeah, and do you want to? And the key thing there is Kevin's personality has proven that he can do this and do it well. Do I think that KO can grow as like a coach in game? Yeah, we've talked about that for 2 years, definitely. Do I think he's not going to grow? No, I think he's smart enough to adapt and adjust. And quite frankly, I think that's why he has now said that interior of our offensive line ain't going to cut it in the playoffs. Like, I think that's a place of growth. The other thing, too, is do I really want to take Kevin O'Connell away from McCarthy, and now he's got an adopted coach? Like, Brian Flores is now his coach. Like, this whole thing is being done, as the Vikings like to say, very intentionally. So let's let that play out.
Yeah, the draft picks are the mystery box. I already have a boat. Kevin O'Connell's a great boat. I'm not trading that when I can just have him. The draft picks, no. And Judd brings the point of then you're giving JJ McCarthy that in a different type of home when the infrastructure is around Kevin O'Connell. No, multiple draft picks are not even on my radar for him.
Dude, it's kind of wild how much the last 2 games have shaken the fan base and zoom out.
But why can't we say it was 2 bad games and O'Connell played a role, and that's where it ends? Like,
Yeah.
why? I don't understand. Like, my criticism is they had 2 bad games, and he is culpable for some of that. Like, I don't need to absolve anyone. The entire team collapsed. But why does that have to result in I don't trust him now?
And if you just kind of just take a deep breath and take a step back and look at this from the top of a hill, right? Go back 9 months. The risk of moving on from Cousins into quarterback unknown.
Right. That's a good point.
And out of that risk, quote unquote, and abyss, you wind up absolutely rejuvenating the career of Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And then have JJ McCarthy in your back pocket ready to rock and roll with another former top 10 pick entering quarterback rehab university in Daniel Jones. You actually have like a really good quarterback situation here from 2024 to 25, 14 wins, and a boatload of cap space. I know the last 2 games are brutal to swallow because of just how excited everyone was in 14 wins. But this is a crescendo for the Vikings organization. This is not like, oh man, they missed their pop-up chance and now everything gets wiped away. In fact, there's a good chance now, unless there's a rash of injuries, that they make the playoffs back-to-back years. If they can even get to like 9 wins next year, like they'll make the playoffs back-to-back years for the first time in 15 years. So there's just the devastating feeling of the last 2 games should not override to me the big picture of where they're at here.
Yeah.
Our chief meme officer, Jason, chimes in, says, I've seen plenty of Vikings fans criticizing KOC when it comes to our run game. Well, let me ask you this. Is he unwilling to establish the run, or is he unable to schematically? And then he kind of goes into the running back situation. Look at who he's had for running backs the last 3 years. Dalvin Cook going over a cliff. Alexander Madison, Ty Chandler, Cam Akers with 2 torn Achilles, Aaron Jones at age 30, and an assortment of random practice squad guys. By the time he took the job, Dalvin Cook was cooked. Madison was RB2 at best, etc. You see what I mean? It also doesn't help when your interior offensive line is getting forklifted all the time. If you get KOC a true RB1 and an upgrade interior offensive line, will the run game improve significantly?
I think so. Like there has been times. My only concern with him personally is there have been times where it's been going okay, but there's a couple of minus runs, and he just sort of abandons it. So that does concern me a bit. But in fairness, overall the run game did improve. Like Jones ran for, and it's not that big a deal in 2024 anymore, but he ran for more than 1,000 yards. But this goes back to, I also think O'Connell can learn. Like, I think that loss to the Rams isn't something, like he said yesterday, I've watched it more than is healthy. He doesn't watch it because he thinks it's fun. He's trying to learn. And I think this team, O'Connell, had a training camp that by today's standards was tougher. And he did it to pay it off in the playoffs because you have to be tougher. You have to run more. It didn't work out, but he was on the right path. I am very willing to be patient with a guy that I think is a good coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dex.
I think some of the running game stuff, like he has not really demonstrated whether he's been here at the Vikings or as an OC with the Rams or Washington. There is something about, he has a feeling about the run game. I'm not saying he completely hates it. I think that's way too far-fetched, but he definitely wants to pass. And look, he's had Kirk Cousins, he's had Matthew Stafford. Sam Darnold was a reclamation project. I am a little shocked, maybe just because how good Sam Darnold played, that there wasn't more of an establishment of the run early on this season, because you would think going into the year, like, hey, rely on the running game and then let Sam, kind of pick up and be a supplemental.
Well, there actually was. They were like bottom 10 in passing attempts early.
Yeah.
And then we could see where it turned out. Like early on, they were like, it was flipped from the first 2 years in terms of play calling ratios. I will give him that. He did try to run the ball early in the year more often.
But if they got an established like early running back, yes, like I would like to see what the car and what the offense would look like with a legit back that's not either over the hill or someone that's just incompetent and can't be an everyday back.
Yeah, it's funny because like this last year, they finished 18th in passing attempts. Yeah, 18th in passing attempts. Last year, even with Kirk going out before November, so they had a bunch of backup quarterbacks in for the last half of the season. They finished 4th in passing attempts, 5 behind number 1 Washington. So he did, like, they've passed the ball 631 times in 2023, 548 times. So, like, what, 85 fewer pass attempts in 2024.
Yep.
But it's, it's the effectiveness of the running game is still not where the Lions or some of these read option teams like the Ravens.
It's more of a word. They ended up being softer than we thought that they should be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, it's not the attempts, it's the what did the attempts accomplish.
It's the vibes.
Exactly. It never felt like they established it. And I'm sure that, Boone and Searles would agree. You want that to kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want the Rams to be like, oh man, we're tired. This sucks.
Yeah. Let's do one more here, then we'll get to Judd drafting video games.
I can't believe you guys doing this to me again. So hurtful.
Quinn from Chicago says, love the show and love getting my sports fix in every day. So my question is, what do you guys do for exercise? Does anyone play intramural sports, or did anyone play intramural sports in college, or try any fun summer kickball leagues, or any winter activities?
Let me
Keep
tell
up the
you
great work this offseason.
Yeah. Let me tell you a fun story. I think I've told it before, but I'll tell it again. Everyone remembers where they were when Kobe died. Okay? Because this almost happened, I think like a year, his death anniversary, I think, is around the corner. I think it happened around this time. I said with a couple of my buddies, I'm going to start going to the gym. So I was going to Planet Fitness, and I'm at the gym on the treadmill, and everyone kind of stops what they're doing and is getting the news that Kobe Bryant had passed away. And we're all watching on the TVs. Like, everyone's done. There's 50 people watching television, not even working out. I declared in that moment that if I'm at the gym and Kobe Bryant is dead, this is a sign I should not be here. And I never have stepped foot in a gym again.
Well, he didn't die of physical activity in a gym. He was a
Kobe
helicopter.
Is this cerebral assassin of his preparation. And if I'm here, something doesn't feel right.
You're saying anyone can die at any minute regardless. So what's the point of staying in shape?
It's more of, if not even that. It's just Kobe is a freak in the gym. And if I'm at the gym, something didn't add up. And I didn't
looking
like
for an excuse not to go to the gym.
Yeah,
and Kobe's death gave you
pretty weak.
that excuse. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with your premise.
But no, I don't. I mean, I golf, but I'm a big driver. I do not walk for golf.
Daniel M says, don't ride helicopters, but you should work out.
Don't ride helicopters.
You couldn't get me in one if you paid me $500.
No, I can't do that either.
I think I just get nauseous more than anything else.
It's got a blade, and that's all it's got. If that blade goes out, it's over.
I have 2 siblings in the military, and both of them have said if they weren't forced to go in a helicopter, they would never go in a helicopter. Yeah. So I think that kind of tells you how people feel about helicopters. But I don't. I used to go on walk. I definitely walked a lot more when I was in North Loop because there's just great areas to walk around all the time. But when I golf, I loathe lugging a bag. I don't mind if I have a push cart, but I got to be driving. That's my long-winded way of saying no. I don't work out.
You're out in the burbs now too. What exercise are you going to get? Besides drinking on Friday night,
you can walk around the neighborhood.
I walk the Vinster. But that's
Peloton, big Peloton guy here. If anyone wants to. I think it's at Phil Mackey. I'm not sure. Big Peloton guy here.
All right,
love
Phil,
me some 30, some 45, maybe some 60-minute rides if I'm feeling ambitious.
Wow.
Yeah, Judd.
I go to the gym sometimes. Not enough lately. I feel like during the season, right? We're so bogged down with game planning and hot takes. I feel like But now that it's done,
exercise.
I could see myself. Well, I mean, this is a stressful time, or it was at least till it's done. So that's what I do.
Lucas says Phil and Kevin O'Connell probably ride together on the Peloton. Yeah, we actually share the same bike when we ride. We have a two-seater, little two-seat Peloton.
Can you imagine Kevin O'Connell jumping on with a bunch of people? Why'd you call that freaking play?
Do you guys want to draft some video games here? I know Judd doesn't. But that's okay.
No. Again, I'm fine. It's my job to play along. It's just that this is certainly not in my.
I do feel we should probably give Judd a future snake draft of his choice.
Sure. Well, Judd, submit some ideas for snake draft.
Yeah, I don't do it. I don't submit them. That's my fault. Favorite
obscure
year of baseball
90s
cards.
Alternative bands.
Best Topps cards.
Oh, could do that.
Topps cards.
What about your favorite place to, if you need a heating or plumbing, MSP plumbing and heating? Why don't you talk about that?
I will indeed, because here's their thing. It's called commitment, because that's one of the most important words at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air. For more than a century now, families have relied on them for all their plumbing, drain, heating, and cooling needs. As a 100% family-owned and operated business, MSP is committed to taking care of your families. That means if you think that there might be something wrong with the furnace this time of year when it's cold, you hear that clunk, 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 do not delay. Give them a call, and right now get $50 off any HVAC or plumbing repair. 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. The website is callmsp.com. Get ahead of any problems before they happen with my friends at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
Also, the Minneapolis Boat Show is almost here. Thursday, January 23rd through Sunday, January 26th, next week. The best boating is heading to the Minneapolis Convention Center. The Discover Boating Minneapolis Boat Show in partnership with Progressive Insurance. It's not just any boat show. It is the Midwest's largest boat sale. More boats, more brands, unbeatable deals. Check out what's new for 2025. There's no better place to see and buy brand new 2025 boats and boat accessories. Go to MinneapolisBoatShow.com to find out about $13 online tickets. Children age 12 and younger are free. MinneapolisBoatShow.com to learn more and purchase tickets. Here's the order of our snake draft of the week. We're taking suggestions all the time. The inbox is open. The feedback tab, Score North app, if you want to send us ideas for snake drafts. Last week we did buddy cop movies. The week before was hot sauces, Christmas movies. And by popular demand, video games is our topic of the week here, with Dex getting the number one overall pick. I pick second, Judd third, and then the wraparound on the snake draft. Any questions here? I think the one major one is, are we drafting franchises? Or I think if you have a specific edition of a video game, draft it.
Yeah.
Can I dip into the arcade era?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Go back as far as you want.
7 High, baby. Great arcade back in the day.
7 High.
7 High was it's a Target now in Tonka at the corner of 101 and 7, though. It was a strip mall or I don't know what you call it at the time, but yes, great video arcade.
I think Judd's going to win this. The voting is always, do we have updated standings, by the way? The voting is always on the Score North Twitter account.
Yeah.
And Judd's not the biggest video game guy, but I feel like he's going to surprise people here.
I got my first win last week in 2 months, so with buddy cop movies. So I picked up my first W.
I got a lot of praise, but I didn't come close. I think Phil was second, or at least he was last time I checked.
I'm 7 for 23. Judd is 11 for 29. Phil 8 for 26. Judd's most recent. Judd, it's actually been a month. Granted, we had a couple weeks off, I think, for snake drafts, but you haven't won since Lunch Meats draft on December 13th. That was the last win for Judd.
Which surprised me. I won that one. So
Phil's last one was hot sauces. He got 60% of the vote on hot sauces.
Frank's red. Let's go.
Yeah, he did a good job on that one. I was
highest percentage of wins. Mackey with Thanksgiving foods at 78%. Lowest percentage. Mackey with his bar food draft at 3 points.
Fonzie and Richie bumpers.
Mullen, for the audio audience, Mullins says Judd going with Happy Days pinball.
Once had a pinball machine in my house. My parents bought one
nice.
for us.
Do pinball machines count as video games? I think they
you
do.
could take. Well,
I'm not going to take one, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm not going to take one either. So
Yeah.
if you want to take one,
I'll think about it.
You think
Yeah.
about it. All right.
Okay. The Dexter.
I will take Halo 2 specifically. I'll take Halo 2 in the franchise. I think that's the best multiplayer one of all of them. I love Halo. I can understand other people might like Call of Duty more, but I'm a huge Halo fan, so I want Halo 2 on my board. Number 1, give me Halo 2.
I feel like that's going to be a controversial number 1 overall pick here. I'm a Halo guy myself. I feel like you probably could have grabbed Halo in a later round, but there's a big Halo fan base out there. So
Well, Mel Kiper didn't do a great job there.
I don't know if that was overdraft a little bit. Todd. Okay, I'm on the clock here with the number 2 pick. Oh man, so much pressure here. There's so many. I'm more of like a 90s, early 2000s video game guy. I know there's a lot of younger listeners and viewers that are probably maybe more mid 2000s and going forward. I'm gonna try and cut Judd off. I don't know that he's gonna draft this, but it's possibly on his big board. So I'm gonna take Tecmo Super Bowl here with.
Sure.
I believe Tecmo Super Bowl is the greatest football video game.
That's your game, yeah.
And I know
wouldn't
that
take
like
that from you.
Madden has now created the most real. You're literally like calling checks at the line, and you're picking hot dog prices with ownership mode.
We're getting some great suggestions here, and someone just suggested. Okay, so I have back-to-back picks.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
NHL '94.
Okay, that's a great one. It's a great
Which
one.
was
Judd's
which
gonna
is
win. I'm telling you.
From Swingers, the best, might be the best one that they've done for that sport. And then I'm going to turn around and take a video game from the arcade. I'm going to take Donkey Kong.
Oh, Judd, dude, Judd already
on
won.
fire.
Judd already won. Oh my
Take it.
God.
I love Donkey Kong.
I'll put arcade for
See,
AJ
back in the day, young sports dad, like young Sheldon, you got young sports dad, the sitcom. That guy knew his video games.
This is great.
Wow, dude. I would love to go spend an afternoon at an arcade with like 80s Judd.
Oh.
You know, like mid 80s Judd.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm back on the clock here with my second pick. And I think this Tecmo Super Bowl is probably the game I've played the most. There's another one in here too that I'm hoping falls. I'm going to go with Grand Theft Auto, specifically Vice City. I'll go Grand Theft Auto because we should pick a
Yeah, for
but
sure.
really any of the Grand Theft Autos. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is the Grand Theft Auto. Probably the third most I've ever played a video game, like in college.
Yeah.
I
I
sit
actually
there for hours.
You can do a actually I still play Vice City a ton. You can do GTA Plus on Xbox and PlayStation subscription. It's like $5 a month, gets you access to all the GTAs, and I still dabble up on some Vice City every once in a while.
Great soundtrack, man. Just some 80s classics.
Sometimes
Hall & Oates, Laura Branigan.
Yeah, if I'm feeling a little
Laura
blue,
Branigan.
I will just drive around and listen to the Vice City soundtrack.
It's great. All right, so that puts Dex back on the clock for
man.
back-to-back picks, his final 2 picks.
Oh, the board is stacked here for me.
There's a lot left for you.
It is amazing.
question.
The board is stacked here for me. I'm shocked one game has not been picked yet, specifically from Phil. And I kind of want to snipe it, but it also it would contradict. It would give me 2 of the same type of games to a degree.
Oh,
Kind of.
okay.
From the same
yeah.
provider.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, though. Give me Super Smash Brothers. I love Super Smash Brothers.
Never got into Super Smash Brothers. I respect it. Very popular.
Big Super Smash Brothers fan. So I have the multiplayer and first-person shooter in Halo 2. I have a great, also like split-screen game in Super Smash Brothers, which is great to play with your buddies. I don't have a sports game. I feel like I need to kind of take a sports game for this. I think the Tecmo Super Bowl is before my time. I think my generation's bigger football game is NFL Blitz.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm going to take NFL Blitz.
NFL Blitz was like when they'd stretcher dudes. Everyone was roided out, and they would stretcher guys out. The ambulance would come onto the field, right? If I remember.
Yeah, I mean, you could like hit stick people. It was you could do pass interference was on. So like if you threw the ball and you were playing defense, you could physically tackle the wide receiver so the ball never gets to him.
Mullen dropping some hot
Frogger's
comments
good.
here.
Frogger's good.
Judd
Frogger's
counters
good.
with Frogger.
I sort of like that.
All right, so I'm back on the clock here with my final pick, and man, this is hard
Okay,
because I've got
I'm
the
shocked
sports.
You didn't take something here.
Well, there is a game on the board here that old Macadac once ranked in the top 50 in the country. There was a website where you could submit your time trial times on this game, and I was top 50 in the country on the Super Nintendo version of this. So it's the game I have played the most in my life. Give me Mario Kart.
Okay, the Super Nintendo one.
So the Super Nintendo one's the one I've played the most. I know the N64 one also. So I'll take Mario Kart. Do I have to specify which console here?
I would specify because there's 64 and there's Double Dash. Like, yeah.
We'll go SNES.
Okay.
We'll go the OG. Super Nintendo. Let's rock. And that puts Judd, Mr. Irrelevant, the final pick in the video games draft.
This game is anything but irrelevant because it was enormous, huge. I'm just going to take Pac-Man.
Judd's winning.
I love
He's
Pac-Man.
100% winning.
Pac-Man.
I was very confident going into this. This is gonna. I think this actually might come down to the closest one we've had.
It's going to depend on the demo.
These are all very different demos. Like I've taken more 2000s type games. Phil is in the 90s. Judd is more in the 80s and some like we're in three different
90s for me.
I will say I think the Gen Zers are probably pissed that we didn't do like COD and Fortnite and the kind of new age video games. I don't really play new age video games anymore.
Yep.
There's a few, Well, here's the draft, and let's talk about our big boards here in a second. But so Dex goes with Halo 2, Super Smash Brothers, NFL Blitz. I wind up with Tecmo Super Bowl, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Mario Kart. And Judd with NHL 94, Donkey Kong Arcade, and Pac-Man. Here's the top ones that were still on my big board. GoldenEye.
Yep. Thought about that.
NBA Jam.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat.
Great one.
And then, I would say specifically Madden 04, which was the first year of owner mode.
I'm surprised one of you two didn't take a Madden.
And then NCAA Football 04, which I think was the first year of Dynasty mode, where you could pick like Tulane and start with a bunch of one-star kids and then recruit your way up to win the national championship.
So the ones that this was going to be a polarizing, even consulted with our Snake Draft graphic editor AJ, and he thought it was still a little too niche, but it is highly regarded as one of the best games of all time, which is Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I just feel I don't know if our audience would gel with Zelda: Ocarina of Time, even though it's worldly renowned as one of the best video games ever. I had that on there. My other sports one, which I think is a little too nichey, is NFL 2K5, which was an unbelievably fun sports video game, and MVP Baseball 2005.
Yeah.
That's before Madden and the show basically control all those two sports video games. Those two were also on my board. But yeah.
A lot of love for Zelda here. People saying Zelda over Blitz. Zelda is the GOAT.
Yeah. I thought
I had Pong, Tetris, and Intellivision Hockey.
Oh man.
Intellivision was
What
like
about Pitfall? Did you ever play Pitfall?
No, I mean I might have. I wouldn't remember. I wouldn't remember.
So yeah, voting will be sometime here in the next couple hours, middle of the day here on Friday, up on the Score North / Twitter / X account. So go to the polls and vote. This should be a good one. And then this weekend we're gonna hit you with a little Purple Access, Chip and Judd, Dex with off-season vent line, and a lot more in the coming days. We literally were kicking around an email thread of like 20 off-season talkers and episode ideas here for the coming week. So even though the season is over, Purple Daily rages into the off-season. We've got you covered with daily Vikings news, off-season ideas and speculation. Judd, Dex, I'm Phil. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.